Earlier on, there were comments about who is senior, Madam Speaker, and I agree to the comments made by the majority whip, who has since left. But I'd be quick to remind him that I served in this committee for a straight 8 years. I don't think he has served that number of years, Madam Speaker. What is important before, this report is extremely important. And Madam Speaker, why I find it to be important is that it serves as a guide. We may not have achieved, and I agree, I think to Senator Sifuna, somebody said earlier, that we passed this cash disbursement schedule many times. But how comes there's very little compliance to it? But it is not a deterrence for us to still do the right thing. And there's a history, Madam Speaker, as to how we came about this conversation of a cash disbursement schedule. This is something we introduced about 2016 or thereabouts, Madam Speaker, because initially, what used to happen, you'd find that counties at the end of the financial year are being lanked by nearly half of what was the equitable share, and they're actually being asked to consume it before the 30th of June, which is the end of a financial year. And that is what arose or led to many, many scandals, Madam Speaker, if you remember the first cycle of governance between 2013 and 2017, because many of them were doing hurried procurements just to fulfill and tick off requirements that they have funds finally in their accounts after waiting, and there was all the messes that we continue to read about up to today. And therefore, this serves as an important guide. It is a true north, Madam Speaker, in terms of shareable revenue to counties. And we must continue to push until such a time, Madam Speaker, where counties will get their funds on time and without undue delay, as expected by the constitutional dictates of our country, Madam Speaker. You know, previously, and I must celebrate this because I remember, I think last year, when we said that it's a good thing, finally, by 30th of June, the National Treasury had submitted every coin that is due. Many people that didn't understand the history again of how equitable share was being sent to counties felt that there's nothing worth celebrating about. But I felt that it is an important achievement because there are times, Madam Speaker, where counties in the month of August and September of a new financial year, Madam Speaker, will still be waiting for the last disbursement of the previous financial year. And that put them in very difficult situation. This problem that we have in the counties of pending bills, Madam Speaker, is on account actually of revenue to the counties that is not sent at the right time, Madam Speaker, or disbursed at the accurate time. Though there are other reasons, but this is one of the main reasons, Madam Speaker, that contributes to actually pending bills accruing. I know that many county governments have since established creative ways, Madam Speaker, of filling the gap, many of which end up costing taxpayers money, additional funds. They have signed, I think, agreements with various banks, KCB, I don't know which one, where at least particularly for salaries, even if there's a delay, they consistently get their salaries. And you have to understand where county governments are coming from. Because if you're a governor and it's 6th, you can't be pushing people to come to work early when you have not paid them their salary, Madam Speaker. It might be true that some of them don't even have fare. So we must continue to push and demand from the National Treasury that with the same seriousness that they treat debt, because I know debt is a first charge on the on account to revenue that has been raised nationally, Madam Speaker, that they must treat cash to our, cash disbursement to our counties with the same level of seriousness, Madam Speaker, because in any case, the Constitution has already divided these funds between what remains at the national government and what goes to the county governments, Madam Speaker. And it's unfortunate that up to date, Madam Speaker, we have to push and issue statements here, sometimes even threats from Council of Governors for some of these disbursements to be issued, Madam Speaker. I strongly believe, Madam Speaker, that that was not the expectation of our Constitution. Having said that and having explained and appreciated the need for this report, Madam Speaker, there are a few things that I must say about our county governments as well, Madam Speaker. First and foremost, we must continue to be the house that pushes for the realization of the devolution dream in the Republic of Kenya. The Senate is properly placed in this constitutional architecture to be the defenders of the interest of county governments. By the same vein, that we are pushing for county governments to be funded, we must continue to speak up against the misuse of public funds in our county governments. Both misappropriation, Madam Speaker, or even misbudgeting and all the malfeasance that we see in many of our county governments, Madam Speaker. We must continue to be the voice of reason in the devolution conversation, because at least the office of the senator in any county government, Madam Speaker, they don't have any other interest other than the interest to ensure that service is delivered to Mwananchi. Many times, Madam Speaker, when senators speak, people either choose to misunderstand us or perceive that there is a specific interest that we are trying to pursue. That is not the case. Many times, I am very clear, Madam Speaker, that when we insist that monies be put to prudent use in our county governments, Madam Speaker, that perhaps maybe we have interest against certain individuals, we are sent by the call of duty to just expect that our county governments will perform in an optimal manner, Madam Speaker. I heard my colleague Senator Ledama say that he disagrees with the CS for National Treasury, John Badi, on the directive to county governments on e-procurement. That is a statement of fact. There is no way the National Treasury can direct county governments on their operation. That is common sense. However, Senator Ledama, the part that I disagree with you is a part that you appear to be actually making excuse for the kind of procurement practices that we are seeing in our county governments. In fact, we should be leading the way as a Senate in ensuring that county governments do their procurement electronically, so that you are able to trace and know at what services are these county governments procuring services. We saw a report here the other day from county governments where they are buying a bottle of soda at 1,000 shillings. If there was e-procurement in those counties, you're able to see the process from start, from what time the tender was issued up to the end. This issue of paperwork is what is making our counties spend nearly 70 to 80% of their development span over and above what is the common price of common items, even in your own county of Narok, Senator Ledama. Therefore, I believe, as a Senate, Madam Speaker, we must push.
Point of information? Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Madam Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my friend, the Majority Leader, and I just want to be very clear that my statement and my position on e-procurement is that national government deal with your e-procurement. County government are semi-autonomous. I fully support e-procurement, but an e-procurement managed by county governments. Not an e-procurement that is managed by the national government for county governments. That is my position. And my statement is supported by law, by the Constitution, Article 6, Article 176 of the Constitution, and even Article 179 that says the executive authority of a county is vested and exercised by the governor and the 10 CC members. So that is my position. It is not that I do not support the e-procurement. I do. I went to court, Madam Speaker, to stop a procurement process in Narok County because I felt that it was not right. So Senator Okiya Omtata went to court because of a procurement challenge in Busia County. So the issue is having the national government controlling county governments.
You know, that is good clarity. I just need to be sure that my colleague is not opposed to e-procurement in county governments, because that's the only way we can establish, Senator Ledama, the procurement processes that are running. You know, I saw our colleagues in the National Assembly fuming and breathing, saying, oh, there's no way we can allow. There's no internet in other parts of the country. Yet I know for a fact that the only interest in that matter for most of them is because they want to do procurement in CDF manually so that they can dish contracts to many of their friends. We must be different, senators. We must be firm and tell our county governors that we want to see a procurement process that is transparent. And the only way you can do that, do this thing electronically. In fact, many of the people that you procure services from, they know how to run digital systems. Let them upload their quote so that I'm able to evaluate and know what is it that led to me losing out on a particular tender, why a certain contractor was awarded, at what price, things that members of the public cannot see now. I said in this house yesterday that the one thing I appreciate about SHA, Madam Speaker, is the transparency of posting how public funds are being sent to all these institutions so that people can read. Diligent citizens can look and say, how are you claiming that this particular hospital received this amount of money? The same must be made out of procurement in our county governments, Madam Speaker. The second issue that I wanted to speak about, colleagues senators, is that we must continue to push for efficiency in our county governments. Last session, when we tabled here the reports from the Public Accounts Committee, Madam Speaker, on financial year analysis of all our 47 county governments, doesn't it bother you, colleagues senators, that of all the 47 counties, first of all, none meets the statutory edict of using up 35% of your resources on actual development? Doesn't it bother you that more than half counties, more than half of our 47 counties, Madam Speaker, are spending half of their shareable revenue to pay just salaries? Senator Kalwale, that will bother you. If the 10 billion you're sending to Kakamega, 5 billion is being used to pay the 10,000 people you're talking about, shouldn't we be concerned as a house? Those are the things that we must begin to speak about, Madam Speaker, if we are true to the dictates of our constitution on the objects of devolution. Because I believe, Madam Speaker, that when Kenyans voted for this constitution, they believe that they were voting for services to come closer to the people. It's not for one individual in my village to be employed. Then a governor comes and says, oh, you know, in this village, I've employed so-and-so as this, as a warden or the other. What they actually need, I'd rather you have medicine in the dispensary in my village, because at least when one of us falls sick, they have an opportunity to go to that particular hospital. We must continue to push, dear friends, that county governments perform optimally. Even as we push this conversation on funds being devolved to them, we must have an analysis that is objective. Madam Speaker, you know that I have said many times that I went back to school to better my understanding of issues. And in my project, because each time you study, you must submit a project proposal. I have submitted a project proposal on the efficiency in county government, how to measure it empirically, so that we don't have this funny business by some pollsters who keep coming to us and telling us, oh, I don't know, Governor so-and-so is ranked better, but no empirical way of checking. You pay 50 to 100,000 and then they rank you. We want a scientific way of checking. When you are elected as governor, how much was being collected as own source revenue in a county? How much is being collected now? How much was being sent in actual development spend? And how much is being used up now? How have you reduced exposure of county on fiduciary risk? What is the feeling of Mwananchi on access to services in your county government? What is the proximity to service? How many health centers, if we went in your county, if your county has 50 health centers, how many of them are at least have medicine for common diseases, Madam Speaker? Or we are likely to find just the free things that they give, which are used by young men that I don't want to mention, on the floor of the Senate. Because that's what you find in many of these dispensaries. Not to say that they're not, okay, Senator Mungatana is reminding me that even old men use those things. I don't know how true and what it is. Okay, it is Senator Chesang, Madam Speaker. But the point that I'm making is that, as a Senate, having sat here as an institution for our third cycle, surely it is not beyond us to find ways of pushing for better and more prudent ways of spending these resources that we send to county governments in a way that is objective, so that when Senator Boni Kalwale speaks, people don't say it is because he wants to unseat Governor Fernandez. People can see and say, okay, the senator is making a fair point. Madam Speaker, I believe that before the end of our term, it will be a failure of monumental proportion if, as a House, we will not have elevated this conversation on performance of our county governments to be just beyond the reports of PAC and CPI committees. There must be better ways, Madam Speaker, that we can check, so that even we cost these functions and are able now to go back to our colleagues in the National Assembly and say 415 is not enough because of reason A, B, C, and D, Madam Speaker. I believe, Madam Speaker, that this House has sufficient competence in both the senators and the technical staff that we have that can lead us into that direction. It is my hope, Madam Speaker, like colleagues who have spoken ahead of me have said, that at the end of this financial year, perhaps it's about time that as we receive the report on the cash disbursement schedule for the upcoming financial year, that we equally get a report of the compliance in the previous financial year, to establish and say, this is what these funds were supposed to be, this is when these funds were supposed to have been disbursed, they delayed by how many days. So that then we continue to push on this particular item and ensure that our county governments are properly and sufficiently funded to take services closer to Mwananchi. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to support and hope our colleagues, we can conclude on this debate actually today, so that money can flow as it's supposed to be to our county governments. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.